Book Tasting Friday. Well, all the kids have eaten lunch in the cafeteria, and some of them have shared what's going on so that all the other kids from all the other classes are aware and feel like they're part of this sneaky day. Just want to begin by saying I feel like I'm really getting to know the individual characters in this book, and I find it really a great literary device or tool that Ralph Fletcher used when he decided to make this book have many narrators. And also we get to see what's inside their heads separately in their writing. So it's very interesting. I like how he did that. Okay, here we are. 12:21. Early dismissal. Bastian gulped down lunch. There was a phone right outside the cafeteria. He jammed in the coin and punched in the number to his house. "I'm sorry," a voice said. "The number you have called, 555-7134, has been disconnected. Please," he hung up the phone. Disconnected. All at once it hit him. He was moving. Bastian walked down the hallway and out the front door of the school. Nobody tried to stop him. Nobody said, "Where do you think you're going, young man?" He couldn't believe how easy it was. He strolled past the flagpole and down the street. The skies had grown heavy with clouds and the air smelled like rain. He had no idea where he was going, and he didn't care. His feet kept moving, and he just walked. He walked past a young woman washing her car. She waved at him, and he waved back. In the front yard, Bastian saw a little boy playing ball with a bulldog. Barkley. For the 100th time that day, he tried not to think about the puppy, but not thinking had turned out to be a lot harder than he'd ever imagined. He went past a Catholic school, Our Lady of Sorrows, and stopped to watch the kids playing soccer on the playground. They were all wearing uniforms, boys in slacks and white shirts, girls in identical tweed skirts and white blouses. A couple hundred kids, and he didn't know a single one of them. He knew that moving to Hawaii would feel exactly like this. No friends. Hundreds of strange kids. Most of them would stay apart, watching, checking him out from a distance. He would go through this kind of quarantine, his own kind of quarantine. He left Our Lady of Sorrows and walked to the end of Walden Street. The Galleria Mall was down the street to the right, but his feet didn't turn that way. Instead, he turned left and began carrying him toward the house. His feet turned left. At first, going home and seeing Barkley seemed like a terrific idea, but he couldn't do it. He sailed past his own street, heading straight toward the house of his best friend, John Leclerc. He got to the house and rang the doorbell. "Yeah?" John's voice came through a crack in the door. Oh, I'm remembering that John stayed home that day. "Hello," Bastian said in his deepest voice. "This is James Warren, the district truant officer. Are you John Leclerc? Open the door. I have a warrant for your arrest. I have a report that you're playing hooky from school today. Don't you realize that's against the law?" "Bastian!" John laughed and swung open the door. Bastian followed him inside. "You're the last person I expected to see. I thought you were having tons of awesome fun in school. Your last day of school." "John, you won't believe this," Bastian said, following John into the kitchen. "Mr. Fab's out today, right? But they didn't send us a sub. They screwed up in the office or something. We got no teacher in the class." "Yeah, sure," John said. He opened the refrigerator door and looked inside. "And I bet they put free video games in all the classrooms, huh?" "I don't think so." "I'm serious. I'm telling you, we've been alone all day. I swear, John, alone. For a while, it looked like Jessica was going to squeal, but she didn't. It's awesome." "Alone?" "We're running the class ourselves. We've got a new motto. Kids rule." John shut the refrigerator. "I don't believe this," he said. "It's wild," Bastian said. "I'm telling you. This day will go down in history. You've missed a lot of fun, but the day's not over yet. Come to school. Karen's playing Little Miss Teacher. That's why we need you. You've got to help us party. I'm coming, John yelled. He ran toward the bedroom. Just let me get my shoes. All right, Bastian called after him. This afternoon, we're going to crank up the music. Wait, John said, carrying his shoes into the kitchen. They won't let me back into school without a note. Don't worry, Bastian said. You want a note? I'll give you a note. I'll give you a great note. Give me some paper. John gave him a sheet of paper, and Bastian sat down to write. Good thing I've got perfect penmanship, Bastian said as he carefully formed the letters. He laughed. Yes, sir, you've had a miraculous recovery. Come on, John said. Hurry up. 12:30, recess. Rachel stood on the playground watching the other kids. She heard a plane in the distance. The air smelled like rain. She thought of her father. He was a tall man, all elbows and knees, with dark, bushy eyebrows. He'd left home when Rachel was in 4th grade. He and Mom had been arguing, and their fights seemed to grow more ferocious with each new day. Finally, Rachel couldn't take it anymore. One day she burst into their bedroom and started shouting at them, Stop it! Stop arguing! You should hear yourselves. It's pathetic that 2 grown-ups should act the way you do. It's disgusting. Dad and Mom looked at her. They looked at each other. She's right, Dad said to Mom. The next day, he moved out. He moved west. A few months later, he bought a small cattle farm in New Mexico. He'd been living there ever since. She only saw him twice a year now, and there were many days when she missed him terribly. His silly stories, goofy songs, magic tricks that were so amateurish, even a baby could figure them out. The rain smell reminded her of one summer day he took her to a playground. It started pouring rain, but they didn't leave. Instead, they stayed on the swings, singing at the top of their lungs while their clothes got soaked. Why flying? Mr. Stickenberger had asked her. Why is flying so important to you? If I could fly, I could see my father whenever I want, she thought. But she never said this, not even to Mom. Oh my gosh. She kept replaying the sequence of events. Her parents argued. She scolded them. Then Dad left. 1, 2, 3. Even now she had the nagging thought that in some way her scolding had been the catalyst for his moving out. Those fights had been horrible, but she wished he was still living at home, arguments or not. She wished she had kept her mouth shut. But then it had never occurred to her that she had the right to remain silent. So Rachel is beginning to feel like all the things that have happened around her that are bad are her fault. 12:50 p.m., blood. After recess, Class 238 filed back to the room. Rachel walked near the front of the line, right behind Karen and Jasmine. Bastian left, Jasmine said. He just went home. I know, Karen said, shrugging. His last day of school, Jasmine thought. It's weird to think that we'll never see him again. Like Tommy Feathers, Rachel thought. It was April 28th, the 6-month anniversary of Tommy's death. Was she the only one who remembered? Bastian's gone, Tim announced when he walked into the class. We know, Jessica sighed. Just then Jordan came in with Sky, who was limping. He's bleeding, Jordan said. Kids ran over to see. Sure enough, there was a large scrape the size of a $50 on on Sky's knee. A bright rivulet of blood had snaked halfway down his shin. He moved stiffly to his desk and sat down, wincing. It's all right, he said. Does it hurt? Karen asked. Sky nodded and bit his lower lip. Sorry about that pass, Jordan said. Guess I shouldn't have thrown it so low. It's not your fault, Sky grimaced. That's pretty ugly, Karen said. You better go down to the nurse. I'm okay, Sky said. He can't go to the nurse, Tim said. Why not? Jasmine demanded. 'Cause he needs a pass, Jim told her. Who's going to sign it, Mr. Fab? Our invisible sub, huh? Are you going to sign it? Karen said. You should just go to the office, Jasmine told Sky. What's the nurse going to say? You can't come in, go bleed somewhere else? That's what she told me last week, Corey said. It's a new rule. You can't go to the nurse without a signed pass. You better go, Jessica told Sky. I'll go with you. Ooh, Christopher said, raising his eyebrows and starting to sing. Sky and Jessica sitting in a tree. Kiss, you Neanderthal, Rhonda said. Opinion, Christopher shouted. Shut up, Jessica pleaded in a whisper. Rachel nudged Missy. When Missy gave her a questioning look, Rachel nodded and nudged her again. Well, it doesn't look that deep, Missy said. I don't think you need stitches or anything. I can probably take care of it. You? Tim asked skeptically. Sure, Missy said. My father's a doctor. I know something about medicine. My father's a heart surgeon, but you don't see me going around cutting up people's hearts, Christopher retorted. He scratched his head. Though actually, that might be kind of fun. This isn't heart surgery, Missy said. Does Mr. Fab have any Band-Aids or anything? She walked to Mr. Fabiano's desk, opened the bottom drawer, and pulled out a first aid kit. Great, this has everything we need. Can you really do this? Sky asked her. Sure, Missy said softly. First we need to wash out the wound. Come, you get over to the sink. Sky hobbled over. The entire class clustered around him. Rachel stood back, watching. Give him some room to breathe, Robert said. See if you can sort of sit up there, Missy said, so your knee is right under the faucet. Sky scooted up onto the counter and pulled his leg around. My mother used to give my sister her bath in the sink, Corey said. Same with my little brother, Tim said. Except one time Don't say it, Rhonda begged. I just ate. This is going to hurt a little, Missy said, turning on the water. You guys see if you can distract him. Try this, Jordan suggested. Say, Peter picked a peck of pickled peppers. No, Sky said. Ow! Just a sec, Missy told him. Think nice thoughts, Jasmine suggested. Yeah, think about surfing, Jordan said. Surfing can be pretty dangerous, Sky told them. A friend of mine got hurt bad his first day surfing on a brand new board. Really? He was riding this huge swell, and he wiped out, and his board came shooting up and caught him right here. Sky pointed at his solar plexus. Hey, Missy said, you guys are supposed to be distracting him. Ouch, Sky said. Sorry, Missy told him. That stuff's supposed to kill any infectious germs. What happened to your friend, Tim asked. Broke 6 ribs, Sky said. He couldn't even move in the water. Luckily, he was able to hold onto his board and float there till somebody swam out to help him. There, Missy said. Good as new. Well, almost. They all looked at the bandage. Missy had done a nice job. Neat job. Sky got off the counter and stood testing his knee. Feels pretty good, Sky said. He looked at Missy. Thanks a lot. When you get home, take the bandage off, Missy said. The air will make it heal faster. Not bad, Christopher admitted. You going to be a nurse when you grow up? I want to be a doctor, Missy said shyly. Haven't you heard? Jessica asked him. Women can be doctors, too. Fact, Rhonda told Christopher. Our hero, Jasmine said, raising Missy's hand in the air. It's no big deal, Missy said, though she did look pleased. See what I mean? Tim demanded. He whirled around so Corey and Christopher could slap him 5. Kids rule. Who needs the teacher? Who needs the nurse? Huh? Who needs any grown-ups at all? 1:10 p.m. Enrichment. Rachel stared out the window, looking past the field to the patch of woods beyond. She had heard that deer lived in those woods, and she liked this idea because deer were her favorite animals. A deer knew how to make itself invisible by camouflaging and silence. Deer made no bark, no whinny, no growl, no sound. They were mute. Or were they? Rachel wondered if silence might be something deers chose. Maybe they had everybody fooled. Maybe they had invented their own secret language to communicate when nobody was around. A few large raindrops splattered against the windows. For a minute she sat watching the rain. She guessed that it would be hard to fly a plane in the rain, especially a small plane. Did planes have windshield wipers like cars? She should know that, but didn't. And landing in a rainstorm would be a little trickier. The rain would cut down visibility. Rachel looked past Sean O'Day's face to the window where droplets were bouncing off the glass. The rain was starting to fall harder now. She thought of the silent deer getting wet in that patch of woods. Corey jumped up to close the windows. Hey, we've got to go to enrichment, Jessica announced. Thank you, 5 points below genius, Tim said. Shut up, you troglodyte, Rhonda shot back. What's that? Tim asked. Look it up, Rhonda told him smugly. Look it up, he mimicked. Enrichment was the program for gifted students. Early in the school year, Rachel had gone to enrichment too, but when she stopped speaking, Mr. Doblin dropped her from the program. I don't want to go to enrichment, Jessica groaned. I must go to enrichment, Christopher said. I must feed my brain. I'm gifted. You've got a gifted belly, Tim said, nodding. Shush, Karen said. She looked at Jessica. You know, I really don't feel like going either. But we have to go, Jessica said. Mr. Doblin will come after us if we don't. We're getting all the enrichment you can ask for right here, Karen asked. Let's skip it today. Skip it? Christopher asked. How are you going to manage that? Just watch, Karen said, going to the phone behind Mr. Fabiano's desk. She picked it up and dialed a number. Order me a pizza while you're at it, Tim suggested. Mr. Doblin, Karen asked. Hi, this is Karen Ballard in Mr. Fabiano's class. We were wondering if we could maybe miss enrichment today. Yes, sir. We're doing a project here in Mr. Fabiano's class. Sort of like an independent study. Vicky giggled at that. No, sir. Mr. Fabiano is absent today. Karen said again. Pause. Yes, sir. Another pause. Karen smiled. Okay, I'll tell them. Thanks, Mr. Doblin. She hung up the phone. That was a close call, she said, grinning. For a second, I thought he wanted to talk to our sub. Anyway, it's all set. We're staying right here. Amen, said Jasmine. What about me? Sean asked. I got to go to the resource room. I'm already late. Everyone turned to look at him. Does Mr. Zametti really help you? Robert asked. Mrs. Zametti, I went to her last year. I think she's an alien. Seriously, she's nice, but she's from another galaxy. Fact, Christopher said. He looked at Sean. You really have to go? Sean shrugged and lowered his eyes. It was no secret that he was a poor reader. My dad showed me this trick, Robert told Sean, for remembering stuff after you read it. I can show you. It's pretty easy. So it's decided then, Karen said. You're staying. We need you right here. But what? Sean said. Don't worry, Karen said, getting out of her seat. I'll arrange everything. Karen picked up the phone again. No answer, she said, frowning. Just then the door opened, and Mrs. Zametti herself walked into the room. Rachel sat up with a start. Come on, Sean, Mrs. Zametti urged from the doorway. She was the grandmotherly sort of teacher, short and plump, with a pair of thick bifocals around her neck. But, I got to do some stuff here, Sean said. He looked confused. I'll have you back here in 30 minutes, maybe less than, said Mrs. Zametti, said with a kind of smile. You'll hardly know you were gone. Reluctantly, Sean stood. Rachel saw him hesitate by the rain-drenched window, torn between going and trying to stay. She felt sorry for him, but there was nothing she or anyone else could do to help him. You are to be commended, Mrs. Zametti said, smiling at the kids in the classroom. I can't tell you how nice it is to see a class behaving itself. You can tell that to Mr. Fabiano. He's out today, Karen explained as Sean walked to the front of the room. She smiled. We have a substitute. She just ran to the bathroom. Please tell her that I said you're a wonderful class, Mrs. Zametti said. Mrs. Zametti and Sean left. For 2 full seconds, the class stayed silent, as if holding its collective breath. Then everyone cracked up. Shh, Jasmine said, but she was laughing too, bent over. She opened her eyes wide and, still laughing, pointed at Rachel White. The whole class looked and saw what Jasmine had seen. A small smile on Rachel's face. Remember, she hadn't been smiling ever since she stopped talking. Okay, see you next week, guys.